enough about me and SCORE. I'm going to hand things over to Jeremy Sisk, who's going to talk to you a little bit about social media marketing.
Hey guys, good afternoon, and thanks for joining. So before we jump into social media, it's probably important that we just take a look at marketing as a whole and where social media fits in. In simplest terms, marketing is the action and or business of promoting and selling products or services. I mean, we all know that, right? So the point we're trying to make here is social media is one aspect of what we're doing from a marketing perspective. So we can't, it's not a silver bullet that solves all problems for a business from a marketing and or advertising perspective. So, aside from, regular word of mouth and aside from things like grassroots PR campaigns, typically what we do from a marketing perspective is in the form of mass marketing. And social media no different. So when we look at mass marketing, there's a number of different mediums that are most common. You have print, which is really common for especially local small businesses. You also have things like radio and television if your budget's healthy enough to support those mediums. Along comes internet, right? So about probably 10 years ago, we got into a situation to where there's this new kind of diverse technology, and it's much cheaper than the traditional mediums of mass marketing. However, as David mentioned, using it right is really the key, because if you use it incorrectly, things can kind of spiral out of control. So as we're talking about social media, remember, we're in one of the 4 mass market mediums that we have available to us. And when we look inside of internet marketing, there's a few common tactics. Now, this is not meant to represent everything a person can do from internet marketing, but it is a good broad representation of what this sector brings. One of the first things that a person can do from an internet marketing perspective, and a quick way to get started, is what we call pay-per-click advertising or search engine marketing. We won't touch on a lot of that there, but you can think of in terms of Google AdWords or Being Local or some of those other devices that you can use to get your ads out locally. Typically, the revenue stream there is fairly quick. However, the cost per lead acquisition is a little bit higher than what you would see with the next item, and that's what's called organic search or search engine optimization. What search engine optimization is all about is really, say you want to build trust and authority on the internet, and maybe you're a dentist in say, the Raleigh area. If someone were to go out to a search engine and search for the keyword term Raleigh dentist, does your business show up? So that's a good way to attract new customers that may not know about you otherwise or even know what your business name is. And then the crux of the presentation today is really focused all on social media. Really it is the digital age's word of mouth. So, all that aside, the things we have to keep in our memory, or we have to keep in the forefront of our brain, is things have not changed all that much. The tools may have changed, but it's still all about product and or services that you provide, your pricing, your placement, and your promotion. Those rules of marketing that have been the rules of marketing since the advent of the discipline, they remain the same, and things have not changed there. So just bear in mind, you can go back and you can download the presentation later. So I know some of that print's a little small, so you'll be able to go back in there and zoom in and out and look at all those aspects of Marketing 101. So exactly where does social media fit in? Probably the most appropriate way to look at the social media, not conundrum per se, but the social media budgeting aspects, which is really how it fits into overall marketing, is to look at where social media fits in from an internet perspective, as well as where internet fits in from an overall advertising budgetary perspective. So when you look at this chart, this is provided by Statista. It's a global internet company. These guys they take things like Nielsen ratings, and they take all those fun little charts and graphs, and they combine them together, and they're the ones responsible for coming up with how we spend our money from a marketing and advertising perspective across the globe and inside of different countries. The chart that we're looking at here is inside the U.S. and as of last year. The thing to note is when you look at online and you look at mobile non-voice, those are the 2 components of internet marketing. When you look at those 2 items together, they're almost the size of what we spend from a time spent as well as from a dollar spent on advertising, as well as the time that we spend as individuals in those mediums. That number has changed dramatically in the last 10 years. No longer do you see radio number 2 and print number 3. You actually see internet coming in as a strong second place behind TV. So the idea today is with that information that we have and knowing that we need to spend dollars in those areas, exactly how do we get started in the social media realm? So here's the big conundrum with social media, right? It's a humongous word, and it's a humongous landscape. There's tons and tons of different services out there. I mean, we've all heard of Facebook and Pinterest and LinkedIn and what have you, but there's probably, I don't know, 10 or 15 different thousand social networks out there. And the conundrum for a small business owner is figuring out exactly where to spend your time and spend your resources, and figuring out which one of these social networks or which ones of these social networks will be the most valuable to your business. So there's three important things that we need to keep in mind. You know, we just talked about how large social media is from a technology perspective. There's three real basic things that we need to keep in mind. You don't have to be everywhere all the time, and there's no way a person could be. There's not the resources nor the time to do that. The second thing is we need to figure out exactly where our target market is online. A good example would be if you're selling things like products that may be visual in nature, Pinterest is a good place to be. However, if you're doing business-to-business sales, then maybe LinkedIn's more appropriate for your business. The third thing is something David alluded to. It's not enough just to go out and just create a page and be there and have your name out there. You've got to actively participate. So again, it's more of a time spend than it is necessarily a resource spend. And if you get into this, you need to stay into it because you know, bad things can happen when you don't. The last thing you want to do is create a page and have a bunch of negative comments because you're not going back and you're not interacting with your community. So lastly, before we get into the actual sites that we're going to review today, the things to keep in mind about social media is it really is social. You have to join in the conversation. You need to answer and ask questions and use your expertise to help out your community. You need to share your story. So maybe there's a reason you got in business, or maybe there's a reason you're staying in business that would be important for your customers to know. You need to make sure that they understand this, and you need to make sure that they understand what value you bring as an owner as well as your company brings to the community. You need to also engage your audience. There's many ways to do this. You may promote events online. You may give coupons for the 500th like. You may do things like have a release party for your new fall line. Those are all things that you can do to engage your audience and create sort of a buzz around your products and or services. The last but not least, probably the most important, is you need to offer value. Simply saying thank you is not enough in the social media world. There may be expertise that you have. Maybe you're a CPA and you can offer accounting advice, or there may be things that you can do from, say, a fashion perspective if you own a retail store. Share that information online and watch your business grow. We've got several examples at the end of where people have done this right. So when we get there, you guys, when you download the presentation, you'll actually be able to go out and see some of the businesses that are doing exactly what we say here. So when we look at what we're going to cover today, there's obviously a few sites that stand out. The first sites that we'll cover will be Facebook and Google+. We'll then move into Twitter and Pinterest, and then we'll close with LinkedIn and YouTube.